Hey, it's me. I'm back with a video finally. I know I haven't been making a lot of videos, but I'm trying. It's hard to get back into the swing stuff. Plus, I work from home and I don't do shit and it's boring. So maybe I'll do some work from home videos, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So in this video, I am going to walk you guys through the process that Zach and I went through, mostly me, of creating a large desk for our home office. We recently moved from a small 2-bedroom apartment to a smallish 3-bedroom house, the 3rd bedroom being an attic. We decided to turn that into our office because we didn't have one in our last place. Zach's desk was sort of in the middle space, sort of hovering between the living room and the dining room. I didn't even have a desk. I had a craft table, like one of those cheap Lindemann IKEA tables, in the corner of our bedroom, and I used it to craft. And if I had to work at home, I had to set my laptop there, and I would have to like move stuff off the table to craft, put stuff on the bed and on the floor, and it was a mess. So we were super excited to have like a full proper office. So I found a blog post with a plan for a 12-foot long desk that a couple made using just lumber from their local hardware store for the top and IKEA cabinetry for the base of the desk. I'll leave the link to that blog post below. So I decided to use that as the basis for what we were gonna make. So let me tell you, before we even get started, this was not a difficult project at all. This was my first real sort of DIY project, but it wasn't hard. There were some slip-ups. There were some mistakes, but Zach and I are not the handiest people in the world. We're both kind of haphazard when it comes to certain things, but if we can make it, anybody can do it.
So first up on the materials list is the wood. Obviously, we purchased 4 2x8x12 pine boards, but ended up having to cut them in half to fit in the car. So we used 8 pieces. We used the sander with 80 grit sandpaper. Next, we got some Minwax pre-stain before the staining process. The actual stain that we used was in the color honey, and I'm sorry that this can is looking super grody right now. And we finished off the wood staining process with a couple coats of polyurethane. Of course, you're going to need a drill, and make sure you have something to make pilot holes with. Or you could use these awesome spacks and not have to use pilot holes at all. These are great. These are the 1x3s that we use to connect all of the wood together. These are our old nightstands that we repurposed as our desk drawers. And we used 6 of these IKEA Olav legs. Some other items you might want to consider to really help you out with this process are some workhorses to help you with the process of sanding and staining the wood. Also some protection, eye and mouth protection. Don't want to get any of that stuff all up in your trachea situation. You want to have a lot of rags on hand to wipe your wood down. You can also use these to use for staining, and some plastic tarp might be useful as well.
The process of making the desk, it was pretty simple. I would say it took us a week from start to finish. It doesn't actually take a week by any means, but we weren't particularly in a rush to do this. Like I mentioned earlier, there was some like mishaps here and there. Obviously, anytime you're working with stain for wood, you're not going to be able to slap this together in a day. Because you have to do multiple coats of different portions of the staining process. So I think if I had to make this desk again, it would probably take me 2 days, 2 to 3 days, depending on how many coats of stain were needed, honestly. I do think you could definitely do this by yourself. There's some parts, like when you're connecting the pieces of wood, you do need someone sort of holding them together, but there are tools that can help you do that. So the first thing obviously was sanding down the wood. Now, I am lazy, and like I mentioned before, I didn't need this to be the most perfect piece of woodwork. I didn't need this to be like Ron Swanson level woodwork. I just wanted it to work and look decent. So we decided to just sand the tops, and then whatever edge was gonna be the front, like facing us, because we didn't want to be snagging our like arms and clothes and stuff on the front side of the desk. Because this dimensional lumber is gonna come with stamps and tags. There's knotting in wood naturally, obviously, and you wanna make sure you sand all that down. Not only so you won't be getting splinters, but because it's gonna make your staining process go way better. Your stain's gonna be much more even. So after sanding, we then had to wipe down the wood to make sure all of the bits of sawdust were gone. Is it sawdust when you're not sawing? What is that called? Dust? Sand dust? You know what I mean. Make sure it was nice and clean. The next thing we did was, because we were going about this in a slightly lazy manner, we had to be sure which of these is the one that's gonna be in the front, so we can know we're gonna sand this side, we're gonna stain this side, and everything else we're not gonna do. So I labeled side A and B, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So I knew this was the first piece, the second piece, the third piece. You'll probably notice dealing with dimensional lumber, it's not perfect, it's not flat, it's not straight. There's gonna be chunks of it missing. So some of the jankier looking pieces, I put those more toward the back. I made those pieces 3 and 4. After sanding and wiping the wood down, we had to precondition, which was super easy. Just some foam brushes, slap it on.
The pre-stain process is super quick. It only takes about 15 to 30 minutes to dry.
Next, we applied our first coat of stain. I don't seem to have any footage of that. I don't know what the hell happened to it. This is all haphazard, you know I'm a mess. So just believe me that we did it, and this is what it looks like when it dried. You can see here that it's kind of blotchy, especially around the knotting. So one coat ain't gonna get it. I'm lazy, and I was like, oh, maybe it'll look good with one coat. No. I mean, we could have left it like that, but I think that would have, there's no reason to be that effing lazy, you know? So we did, I think we ended up doing 3 coats of a stain total. The tarp came in handy when we were finished staining and we covered it, because I didn't want any like bugs to get stuck to it. There were a few little, just like pieces of like detritus from the earth that landed overnight on a few of the pieces because the wood, the tarp like blew off in the middle of the night. So after staining, we could have gone on to put on the polyurethane, but for some reason I wanted to construct it and then stain it and then coat it. I don't know why I did that. So the next process was attaching the 1x3s using those awesome spacks. Like, they're so awesome. Maybe there's a clip in here of it just going in like butter. Now, here's the mishap that happened. A lovely man at Home Depot who recommended the spacks to me told me a specific length of screw to get because I was using a 1x3 and I had a 2x8, so it was this thick, so use this. And I didn't even think that, oh wait, this lumber is not actually 2 inches. This connector piece is not actually 1 inch thick. So the screw was too long. So I had everything turned upside down, you know, like the stain side down, so I could do this connector, and I was just going to town, like screwing everything in. I'd used 16 screws, 2 per slat. I turned it over, I was super excited, and there were 16 tiny little damn holes in the top of the desk because the screws were too long. I was gutted. I was like, oh my God, like I've completely fucked this I've completely screwed this up. What am I gonna do? My first plan was to fill it in with like a wood filler, sand it down, and then to do a touch-up stain. But then I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm absolutely not going to do that. I'm gonna live with this. It's only on one side if I need to write. This desk was never gonna be flat in the first place. So it's not like I needed to be super smooth and flat for like drawing or whatever. That's what I have my craft table for. So we just left it, and you honestly, you can barely see it. We then attached the legs. Those were super easy to screw in. It's just like any IKEA thing. So after standing the desks up, putting them in place, looking at them, looking beautiful, looking great, super proud of myself, ourselves. Then we decided to add the polyurethane. And at this point, I almost passed out because there's only one window in this attic. And I was like, oh, it's not gonna be that bad. I don't need a fan. I needed a fan. We needed a fucking fan. Another reason that this took a week is because we just kind of left that up there. So we just wanted it to like air out up there. So after we did that, we were done. We had our desk and it looked amazing, even though there were 16 tiny little holes in the top of the desk. From far away, you can't tell. And once you have all your like stuff on your desk, your keyboard and your books and your pen holders and all that shit, you can't really tell. It's such a sturdy desk. It's very heavy. It's strong, like it doesn't feel wobbly. It doesn't feel homemade, you know. Sometimes when I'm up there and I'm working at my desk, I forget, like, we literally made this. We bought some damn wood from Lowe's and did a bunch of stuff to it, and this is our desk. Like, I'm super proud of it. It looks really good. I'm really glad that we have the 2 6-foot sections rather than the long 12-foot, because it is easier to move around if we need to put cables under and clean under. It's just a little bit easier to manage. So yeah, that was the process of making our desk. If you have any questions about the products we use or the process of creating the desk, leave a comment below and I'll answer to the best of my ability. So my battery was super rude and died while I was trying to end the video, and the daylight is fading. It's like 5:30. Thank you for watching the video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and hopefully I will see you guys soon. Bye.